Hello everyone, Kenty Tiger here with Bengali Engineering and Play. We are back in Space Engineers. We are continuing building on the Battleship. So as you can see, we've covered quite a bit. I had intended to go off screen and do like 5 things. Mostly little tiny, like rename this and take permissions of that. And as you can see, I got really involved and never pushed the record button. So what we're doing right this second, just so I don't lose my train of thought, is just putting on, there's these ribs down the side, which I'm mostly doing just to keep it from looking flat. Adding a little bit of creative structure here. And I actually already did this on the other side, and I forgot to turn mirroring on, so oops. So as it turns out, just want to get a few things done here. So I have put in a lot of the centerline equipment and pressurized, and put the bay doors here on, and created an awful lot of stuff. So one of the things, so this is the bow of the ship here. I really have kind of turned this into a very Battleship looking thing, and that was mostly purposeful. Being a long-time naval service person, veteran, Navy veteran, and everything, then I'm actually very fond of battleships. So even though obviously this is a different sort of a thing, I've had a lot of fun with it. So all right. So let's do a quick tour. I finished everything I wanted to do here. So let's go ahead and go forward. So we have our fighter bays here. There's actually 6 of them. The doors are closed right now, but each of them has a dedicated connector, and then an air vent. And ultimately, because these are a single bay, even though we call them, you know, bay whatever. This happens to be bay 5 and 6, I believe it is. So we're pointed forward here, pointed towards the bow. So everything on the left side in this case is the port side. Everything on the right side is the starboard side. So keeping with naval tradition, everything on the left is then even numbers. Okay, everything on the port side of a ship is always labeled even numbers. Everything on the starboard side is labeled odd numbers. Now, I couldn't begin to tell you where that tradition came from. It's been that way for eternity, since we were putting bullseyes on spaces and numbering them. So everything from the center line is 0, and if you go starboard, it's odd numbers. If you go port side, it's even numbers. So you can walk on any. I think this is actually true across the different fleets. So I don't think this knows nationality. All the ships I have been on that I could see labels, it was the same. So I don't know, but anyway, so if you're ever lost on a naval vessel, you'll know what space you're in, whether you're on the port side or the starboard side, by looking at the bullseye. So anyway, for what that's worth. So in this case, it's 2, 4, and 6. And then 1, 3, and 5. So those are the hangar bays, the fighter bays rather. Up here is the this is the forward shield room right here. As you can see, the shields. This is the forward tank room, tank and gyro room. So not a big mystery there. And then this is the forecastle here, and I just put down the same blocks here so it actually looks kind of neat. And actually, depending on what class of ship you're on, the forecastle does actually look kind of like this, because you are looking at the hull of the ship going to the point. I took some blocks out and put windows in. Because the vessel here is shielded, I don't really feel bashful about having the windows in. They're doubled, so you have an inner and an outer, so you can see out pretty easily, but it's still at least 2 bulletproof panes to go through before you actually breach the space. So forward reactors here. There's also the forward gas generators here and the forward storage tanks. So we have an oxygen tank there in the center. Yep, oxygen tank here, and then 4 hydrogen tanks in the center. I have not finished aft, so I actually need to put more generators aft. So storage room, we have 2 more oxygen tanks here, the pressurizers up here, and then hydrogen. So just a boatload of hydrogen here to keep us going here. Now, one of the other things that I have not yet put in, which I think are going to go down the center here, are the build and repair system, and I haven't done it yet. Is really kind of the excuse that I want to use here. It was my intention to use it. I haven't yet. So it was basically, I'm getting the structure of the ship built, was getting everything that I wanted to get done, and then I was going to come back and do that. So it is my intention to put in the build and repair system. I do like the way it functions. I like the I like the capabilities of the nanite control factories, but there are some unique aspects of that that are a little more problematic. So we have a airlock here, which is the forward airlock to get out of the ship, port and starboard. And I do have all the gates open right now, and that's purposeful just to make it easy to do the tour. As we secure everything, the spaces will actually pressurize, so everything right now has tested out okay. So this lower section became the storage room. So all of these are elsewhere containers down here, so there are 12 of them total. We also brought the conveyor system down here, and then they're interconnected port and starboard. So this is an interconnection, whereas everything up top is not interconnected port to starboard. It just goes forward and aft. So even though it is redundant, it does not interconnect. These guys are the interconnectors here down here on the bottom. So not a whole lot happening in this particular space. I also have not gone back up and finished the bridge. I have used a few of the switches. They're wall switches from Colt's command console pack, which is right here. So this is what the switches look like, and I really like the Colt command console. So anyway, everything up here, let's we'll go ahead and go back up here just because. So I have the switches port and starboard here for all of the fighter bays here. So that's the outer doors for the fighters. So click, and then they open or close. So one of the things I have not tested here is does this force field looking door up here actually do anything? And I don't know if this bay will pressurize, as I'm just not there yet. So one of the things I wanted to do is get the ribs done, and then my intention is actually to put glass down here on the bottom of the bay. So mostly like these windows are. And so that's kind of where I was at, and I started, you know, greebling again, and it was like, oh, okay, I just need to stop and push the record button. So that's kind of where I was at, which is entirely why I went ahead and just stopped and then said, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to press the record button. So let me turn the mirroring back on here. And then we'll get to putting in the posts and the pillars as intended. So 1, 2, 3, and then we'll actually go like this. So we're only going up to the one post here. So basically it's 4 windows along the side here. What I do need to do is add on some of the other pieces. So this is the lower portion of the pillar, and then I go to the half blocks. And half block here, and then we'll spin and do the same thing on the top. And then we'll do half blocks the rest of the way down. There we go. And there's my half block. So one of the things I did do, which is a little bit hard to see, was on the fighter bays. I went ahead and changed out, let's go ahead and look at some of this here. So the fighter bays, it's kind of hard to see, although you can see the differential here. So all of the flooring and then the front surfaces here are all heavy armor. So it's not totally obvious, although the pattern does change a little bit. So this was intentional because obviously you're going to be taking off, landing. As those thrusters come in, they will eventually deform the armor plating. So the idea there is that with heavy armor, it takes a lot longer to deform, but it will ultimately deform. Alright, so now that that's done, I can actually put in the 2 windows. This back window would have gone in just fine, but the front window would not because it didn't have anything on the sides to actually hold it in. So the idea here is to get the windows in, and then with the windows in, and then I need to create this front space here, which is the forward shield room in this case, or the aft shield room, I'm sorry. And then I'll have the entire hangar bay. So this contraption here is actually the depressurization system. It's sitting on top of batteries, so it is completely isolated. These 4 here, and then there's 4 on the other side, are the pressurization system for the hangar bay. So if all goes well, what I need to do back here is go ahead and put in a gate. So that will be in the center here. And then put in okay, 5 and actually use the interior blocks here. Okay. Transfer to me, yes. So I should only have the single large gate showing now, and this one is leading to the forward shield room. Is this the forward shield room or aft? I think this is aft, actually. Yep, I've been working my way from the front back. Large gate, aft shield room. We will go ahead and put that into the doors large gates group. And then, so save off on the toolbar and off on the terminal. Now, one of the things I do want to do is doors large gates and then closed, which will take the entire group and close the entire group. Bink. All right, so right now this area should be sealed, but one of the things that we can see is that the force field doors here in this case do not seal, so they're not actually doors, which is unfortunate. So what I was doing was looking for something, and there was actually a really cool set of force field doors, and I liked them because you could actually open them and close them. The downside to them is on static grids like a station or something like that, they work awesome. If you attempt to use them on a mobile vessel, the doors themselves will actually remain stationary while your ship moves. They're just gone. So it's a really weird bug. The mod author has not been able to actually figure out or identify why that it works the way it does. It just does. So what I'm gonna have to do here is the mod I wanted to use here, I'm trying to remember, I'm drawing a total blank here. Picture's worth 1,000 words. So let me Shadowflux used equipment sales and service. So Shadowflux did really some really cool, very industrial looking, you know, rust all over it. I mean, clearly weathered, hard weather, not a whole lot of maintenance kind of stuff. They just looked cool, especially if you've ever worked in an industrial environment. These things really looked like they were just some old equipment of varying kinds. There was reactors, there was consoles, there was, I mean, all kinds of stuff. And what I really enjoyed is there was a set of doors. In fact, let me go ahead and just, again, the picture's worth 1,000 words. So let's we'll bring this in, and I had it on the screen here. Here we go, Shadowflux. As we flash over the screen here, so a four-way door, a big iris type door, the angled cargo doors. There was actually a floor version, so a flat version. You could actually so it was a 3x3 door, but it did not have a frame. So you literally had this one side, and you could mount that side, and then, so for example, here's a 4x2. So this is really 12 by 6. right? So when you open the doors, these doors, all four of these go up, all four of these go down, and you basically have a very large doorway that you can close. And so I just love these things because this is the only frameless door that I have ever seen in the game. And it just made everything really, really neat to work with because you could put these doors and create really very large hangars. So a 6 by 12 in the case of this particular picture here is, I mean, you can get a really huge small ship through that space. So these are what I wanted to use. The problem is Shadowflux stopped doing mods, and it was and the reason why they stopped was just because it's frustrating to do mods in Space Engineers because mods break. The developers change things, and then mods break, and then as a mod developer you have to go through and change everything. Now I don't consider myself a very seasoned modder at all, but I do have my mod, and even though technically my mod is published on the workshop, but I don't advertise it because in fact it's set to friends only, and the reason why is because there's really nothing in it. 90% of what's in it is somewhat overpowered to being overpowered to the point of silly, and there was a reason I did that, but it's fine for me to use it, but having it out there for everybody to use, you know, may not be something that that everybody's going to want to have. And there's a lot of really incredible mods. I'm not a modeler, so most of the blocks that I have in the game are actually using game vanilla blocks to do what I do, and then I just change the parameters of them. Like the elsewhere container, for example, is virtually infinite in size, 9 trillion liters. If you can count to 9 trillion, then you're better than I am. So here this great big huge virtually infinite space is in the size of a small large block container. So the small container is a 1 by 1 by 1 block. So you have a 1 by 1 by 1 block that can hold everything that you could possibly want to put on your grid in a single container. That's a 1 by 1 by 1. So it's totally silly. But the point was, I got tired of having to basically build a, you know, cargo container ship just to hold all of my gibberish. So it was, anyway. Looking at some of the things, so we have this, not even sure what this is, but big industrial something. We have containers here. We have really neat shutter type doors. These actually close, but you can see this texture was just really cool. I mean, the rust, the bolts. So here's different kinds. You have these really industrial kind of doors. Another set of doors that's this is a 3 wide, but you have this window here and then the door in the center. These fans, which at one time actually turned, all this gibberish here. You have this very industrial looking landing gear. I actually did use these on a couple of my builds. Pretty large scale thruster of some kind here. Big console that you can, I mean, it's kind of hard to see here, but it's like you walked into a nuclear power plant and stole their console. So just really, I thought, very cool stuff. Wall panels, so all the different kinds of wall panels, so the grating and everything. Other so exposed wiring, closed box, so all kinds of neat stuff. Sorry. A still looking thing, which I know this had a function. I think this actually was an oxygen generator. At the time, a generator. So basically a portable reactor. There was the wires that you could string out. So here's a close-up of the console. I think these are storage containers. And then this was a refinery. So, I mean, very industrial looking stuff. So just cool as all get out. The problem was Shadowflux, and again, I can fully relate, just stopped supporting the mod. So eventually the mod broke. It kind of fell by the wayside, and it was never... somebody else took over, with permission of course, the support of the mod. And the person who was supporting the mod also got tired of doing everything and stopped supporting the mod, and in fact pulled a lot of their mods off the workshop. There was like 100 that they pulled off, and it was very unfortunate. But again, I understand the frustration. But so babble, babble, babble. The bottom line here is that as neat as these looked, I tried to use the doors. In fact, just these big industrial doors, the floor doors. There's no texture on them, so they all show up as this really obnoxious, nauseating purple. So rather than being a colorizable element anymore, they're not. So it's kind of one of those darn kind of a thing. So I tried to use it and couldn't, and oops. So all right, so we'll get this off the screen, pitch this back off to the side. So ultimately what I need to do is find another another mod that will let me do the doors. Having a 4 wide, which is here, is not wide enough. So this is a 7 wide. So ultimately, what I want to be able to do is to cover this entire area here in some kind of door. So ultimately, I'd have to have a 3 and a 4 to be able to do everything that I wanted to do. So ultimately, I have to go out and Shastool, I believe, has one, and I'm trying to remember who else. There's another that has actually a really neat. They basically take the vanilla. Sectan has one. Basically, and there's like 4 or 5 different versions of this. It's basically the hangar door, the vanilla hangar door, and they've made them from 1 to 10. So really neat stuff. So either way, I'm gonna have to come back and revisit that. So unfortunately. All right. One of the things I did on this end, as you can see, is basically collapse this in one block and then came back out. So we started out wide, we collapsed in, came back out. So now we have the hangar bay and, well, actually the fighter bays and the hangar bays. And then the intention here is to collapse back in again. So we'll go ahead and figure out how to do that. And that's all going to happen in these two yeah, so I will collapse in right there. So we'll have one more row of this. This one goes inward, and let's go ahead and change to the tiger stripey black. We have the inverted corner here. There we go. Oh, let me spin it around the correct direction. How about? Yep, there we go. I just have to figure out how did we do that up here? Oh, that's because huh. Let me look again and see how I did it up here. I actually collapsed that one forward. Alright, so we really did do that, but we have oh, okay. Just ran that forward one more. And then this was so okay, let me turn this sideways and carry that one on down there, and that there. All right. Go ahead and paste this guy in where it needs to go. So this was the shrinking down back to this and carry forward up until probably right around there somewhere. Before we figure out how we're I don't know if that's exactly how we did it. Yeah, it looks pretty similar to what we did on that side. Now it's the matter of figuring out how did we do this here. I guess that is kind of... So let's go ahead and... So this is more of a placeholder for... Then if I understand what I did here, trying to understand why that is. Oh, actually it's that it's one of the armored conveyors, so it's kind of glass-like, so you can see what it looks like. And I'm trying to think if this is correct or not. I do need to change colors because of where this is. So let me go ahead and change that color, and then we are I think this is just a block there, but let's have a look. No, I actually angled both sides. But I think I'm going to change this because it's different here. So let's go ahead and change accordingly. So this is there, which means both of these ended up being those. Going up to here, which was then just angled. And angled over the corner. Alright, so that one's kind of back to... Yep, that one's there. That one's there. Yep, just straight up, and then this one coming back out. I'm trying to mirror here, and I'm losing it. So that is all angled out to the front. Is that one? Yeah. So this is actually one too far. So I need this here. How far down to the black does the black go? It goes 8 stops. So I think this was actually supposed to be black along here, and I oopsed. So there's that. We'll put that one, so that one is supposed to be black. Alright, let's swivel this one around the right way. So the reason I'm doing that is because that is entirely black there, and then we go up to this and then come back down, and we oops here. That one I don't have the ribs in yet. Alright, so that was black. And then we actually have this come down here. Understand exactly how this comes in, and then this goes in the back here. I think. Alright, so we should be able to change back to tiger orange. So that goes away, that goes away. This becomes an orange block. This becomes and then we have the aft airlock there. We have the aft connectors here, and then ultimately corners here are going to be a little more complicated. There we go. And that one, and all right. So let's go ahead and, just trying to get my brain wrapped around all this here. All right, so just the edges are going to end up, there we go. Then and there we go. So ultimately, we can follow this one through. So spin, that was actually correct. And then back to, let's come across here, and there we go. One more. There we go. Alright, then it's just going to take a little bit to get the corners working. So that one goes there. That one goes there, then we're on to number 4, which is that one, and that one, which will hold true. So that should have mirrored to this side, which it did. Awesome, awesome. And then, so then the aft reactor room here, and then what I need to do is figure out, do I want a, I think just for pure structural support thought process, we'll go ahead and do like this, and then we'll put a 2x3 window back here. So the other thing that we will do is put okay, half blocks. So we'll change our mind a little bit here and put we'll just put a small window here then. Alright, the process here is actually So down to the half block. The half block will spin. Half block, half block. We'll change. Lay that down. That is a then flip. Flip and flip. Then we'll change colors again to the black. We'll go back to the big block here. There we go. Alright, so that will actually go there and there. And then we'll do the same thing on the top. We'll spin that over. That one goes there. That one goes there. That way we have these ribs back here as intended. And we change colors again. Get over to the correct block. Get the floor in here. All the way up. There we go. Go ahead and get our windows in. In this case, it's a 2Y. Oh, that's the wrong one. So the window and window. And something else that I have the aesthetic antennas, if you will, are forward. So I'm going to put an antenna here, and then I'm going to spin, put another antenna here, and then another antenna in the opposite direction here. And then I think just because, so is that one pointing down, so we'll put one pointing up. So we have a bunch of antennas forward. We have antennas on the top here. In fact, one of those antennas is active up top. And then we have all of these back here aft now. And maybe, do I need the two? Yeah, maybe I will leave those. I was thinking maybe that looks a little bit silly. Figure out where the aft portion here of the actor. So I have the aft airlock here. I did have a, at least I think I did. I might have taken it out. Oh, I did take it out. Oh no, I didn't. It's there. Which went into the forecastle there, so this can go into the fantail back here. So yeah, we'll go ahead and do this. So in this case, I want to follow So I want that parallel with the reactor, which is what that is. These are large gates. We'll turn the gate sideways. Doesn't matter which way it is. And I'm going to put the buttons towards the turret. Now the upside is we have a door. The downside is we do not have an airlock. So basically, if we go out that door, we will evacuate this space, which may or may not be a good thing. Right, so I have a block there, and I don't know if, let's look and see what that's doing there. That might actually be working as intended. Yeah, it looks like it is. So alright, so this is actually not doing anything anymore. So the aft reactor room here is actually pretty good size. It's not only the reactor room, but the aft gyro room. And then we have a lot of open space back here. So my intention back here is actually going to be putting in, I think, a bunch of build and repair system modules, which I think would be grand. Alright, so let's do a couple things here. Let's go ahead and put in some air vents. So I put the air vents upside down just so we can see. Maybe we'll go ahead and put these in the corner. Yep, we'll put these in the corner here. So this is air vent, aft reactor room 01, and in this case I'm not paying attention to where the 01 and 02 and everything actually is. So this is the other one here, which is aft reactor room 02, and there's actually going to be two more. So this is aft, just call it fantail, and let's go ahead and gate midships storage forward deck airlock outer. Okay, that looks like a really strange word, and it is, but this is naval tradition. Forecastle, which is a slur of what that actually was. So if you understand what the apostrophe was, where it takes the place of letters, this is a little bit confusing, but believe it or not, that's the way it's spelled. But the original word was forecastle. So Forecastle, just like castle, like big brick, stone building. So forecastle. As those letters got deleted and the slur began, it eventually became forecastle. So this is forecastle. So apparently I never finished the forecastle deck airlock, which is actually going to be the forecastle airlock outer, and I will actually finish that. So the fantail airlock outer as well. So what we need to do here to make all this stuff happy, okay, that's going to change my plans a little bit, but that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put blocks here, and then blocks along here. And we could nope, I think I'm just gonna leave them. So it looks a little bit strange, but that's okay. Then we put in another gate here, which then becomes the inner door. So this is actually fantail airlock inner. So in this case, we'll go ahead and transfer all this stuff to me. We have a lot of stuff there that was transferred. So the idea here is that we have all of these doors now. So we have an airlock going up to the deck, and then we have the airlock going out to the aft there. So one of the things I do want to do here, these are all T's. So if we look at the build and repair system, provided I can find it, here we go, the build and repair system. One of the things that we'll notice about the build and repair system is it has a T. So it has an in and out. You can see it's got an in there, an in there. So what I'm gonna do here is actually replace all of these T's with build and repair system. Oh, damn it. So there's 5 on one side, 5 on the other side, which is great. Now, what I could do here, and in fact probably would be a wise thing to do, would be to change the orientation of this thing to down, and then so we'll put 5 more in here. And then do what we probably should have done to begin with. So oops on my part. So we'll go ahead and go back in here. Now that we have everything in the back, we'll go ahead and do the transfer to me again, and then we'll come back in and rename the air vents again. So this is aft reactor room 01, and then we'll find that other air vent. Let me turn this off. Find this other build and repair system. And I will come back and configure all these later. Whether I actually leave all these in a single group, I tend to like to have them in a single group because there's not really any reason to put them in multiple groups. I mean, if you really want to get granular in your management, you can. There's certainly no limit to the number of groups. The other thing I want to do here is so let me see, I was on the starboard side. So let me get outside here and make sure I'm seeing everything correctly. So antenna, yeah, 13. So all the odd numbers in this case are on the port side. Which was expected. So this is starboard, aft, not sure how to label them, whether I should label them front to back. As I did in the front. So so that's 3. This is 2, and this is 1. All right, so just for fun, let's go ahead and look and see. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So possibly we could swap 2 and 3, although that's kind of cool being upside down. So maybe we won't. We'll just leave them. And then we'll do the same thing on the port side here. So we want this to be port. And this is actually a 4. Let's see. 3, 2, and 1. We have the conveyor air vent here, which is actually the aft reactor room 02. So we have air vent, and we will go ahead and put those in the air vents group. So save, then off on the toolbar and off on the terminal, and those should now be gone, which they are. So in this case we have all of our antennas. Let's go ahead and have one more look here to make sure that we did what we had intended to do. So we should have 1, 2, 3, and 4, which mirrors what we have on the starboard side there. It's back inside to grab a control panel here, and then we're going to take the antennas. I actually have an antenna group, and so we will put these in the antenna group. So save, and then we're going to turn the antennas off on the toolbar, turn them off on the terminal, grab them again, and actually turn them off. Okay, so I don't want any of those on. So we'll find our way out here, and all of these antennas should have disappeared, which they did. So we now just have the singular antenna up there, which is exactly what we want. Now, if I really wanted to get creative, we could put more antennas here, but how many antennas do you need? So we have all these antennas aft, get them out of the way of the hangars, out of the way of the fighters that might come crashing into the side of the ship, whatever. So we'll probably just leave them right there. Alright, so we have the shield room here, and then the reactor. Now the question is, do we want to move the reactor up a little bit so it is not in the way of the door, or do I want to put the door one forward? And I think I'll go ahead and just put the gate one forward of that. Definitely nothing wrong with having a gate right on the edge there. Alright, so this is going into the aft reactor room. In this case, I want to open the door here, and we'll transfer this to me. We'll go ahead and verify that everything is to me. So highlighted everything. We'll do this one more time. Highlighted, it still stays me, so we're good to go. Alright, we'll come in on the reactor side, and then so one of the things I want to do so we'll go ahead and button up the armor on the side here. And the real question is, do I want to put any windows in here, and if so, how many? So one of the things I was doing was this kind of decorative ribbing. Did I do them singles? Yes, I did. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and change these guys. I'm going to put this forward. So that goes, and that goes. We change to P. Oh, okay. You know what? I'm over an hour. Surprise, surprise. So this might be a good place to stop, and then we'll start into the next episode. So this is Kenty Tiger signing off. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.